This program is a collaboration of personal opinions and individual free thought. It does not represent the views or narrative of the mainstream corporate media hacks. Viewer discretion is advised.
And here we go.
Live from the bell tower, taking a stand for your rights, your liberties, and all the bullshit in between. You're listening to Break the Bell Podcast.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, citizens, all the rest of you out there. Welcome to this thing here, this thing that we like to call the Break the Bell Podcast. Welcome.
Yes, hello, beautiful bell breakers. It is good to be here.
It is, except it's nice outside, and we're sitting in.
I know. I've switched to my summer cap.
You did. I have not switched. I haven't found my summer cap to switch to yet. I gotta dig it out still. So I have my baseball game wearing hats, but we're not watching a baseball game. So
you don't want to mix. Don't cross the streams.
No, you can't cross. But I'm still wearing the winter cap. I mean, we're kind of in a dank basement still.
It is. It's a little cooler in here than it is out
there.
there.
It's like super nice outside. And we're like, what we should do is go sit in a dank basement and talk to a screen.
Yes.
I mean, that's how we should spend this wonderful evening.
That's how Ted Kaczynski started.
Hey, Ted Kaczynski had an awesome, beautiful lake house.
Oh.
He had like a box, like a plywood box out in the middle of the woods, which is what I call my dream home. So, so I'd rather be there than here, to be honest. How's everybody doing? It is Monday night once again. This is the Break the Bell Podcast. If you stumbled across us and didn't know what this is, that I'm sorry. This is it. This is that podcast. If somebody said, "Hey, give this a listen. You're gonna love it." I'm sorry they misled you and they misguided you, because this is all we got right here. This is, if you expected more, you're going to be disappointed. If you expected not very much, then we're right in your ballpark. So
it is good to go in with low expectations.
Yes. That reminds me of this guy saying this guy told me he was going to make this motivational poster that said, shoot for the stars and you'll miss every time. Aim for the ditch and you'll never miss. So we like to aim for the ditch on this on this wonderful podcast. So that way we don't miss any expectations, because we come in it honestly and say, man, this is all we got to offer. We're not promising you. We're not selling you. We're not upselling you on anything. This is the total package, and it's not much of a package. I apologize, but we enjoy ourselves, we have fun, and that's what matters. And we expose a little bit of global bullshit out there at the same time, and who doesn't love that? And we laugh as the world burns. So that's what the show is all about, is just laughing as the world burns.
And hopefully you're able to laugh as the world burns with us.
It's true.
That's what we hope for.
I mean, we started out, we're just we just need to grasp onto the freedoms we have, which is true. We do need to that. And we've evolved into this whole thing's a shit show, so let's just ride the wave of shit, I guess, while trying to grasp onto every ounce of freedom that we can at the same time.
Take it with us.
Yes, exactly. So tonight we're going to be talking. Tonight there's a few things that happened over the weekend, and it's not really things that many people care to talk about, I don't think. I haven't heard a lot of people really talking about.
No, I hadn't until you had mentioned something, and then I started seeing it all over the place.
We're talking usually we stick to one main topic.
Right.
I got a couple topics, but they kind of tie together. I'm tying them loosely together.
Okay.
The first being this leak from the Pentagon.
Yes.
This massive leak, this anal leakage coming from the Pentagon, that
The biggest leak since Snowden.
Yeah,
they're saying.
that's what I was gonna say. The biggest leak in 10 years, biggest leak since like WikiLeaks and Edward Snowden combined. I mean, we're talking like national security threat, obviously, which every leak
We'll
is.
get to it, but I think it's pretty hilarious, to be honest.
It is. But so it talks some Ukraine, it talks some like U.S. spying, which go figure. Then the other topic I want to get into is these like recent Saudi Arabia-Iran relations through the mediation of China. And so there's just this global shift going on. And I think the U.S. isn't doing themselves any favors in this whole process of a shift, because it's like your allies are only going to put up with so much.
Right.
And we'll get into more, but it's just like every other week I would think that would be the final straw for my allies. It's just like, really? Another one? Really? You did that?
Yeah.
Really? You said that about our country? Really? You were spying on us? Yeah. Eventually, you would think our allies would be like, this isn't working out. It's not me, it's you.
Well, and a lot of it is that was the perception of the power of the almighty U.S. dollar, which is
waning.
no longer there.
Yeah, it's drastically waning. And then on top of that, we've got this up and rising star of China that is coming in and trying to grab up the influence that the U.S. is losing. So that's kind of the tie into all this.
Yeah.
It's like the U.S. is losing influence and China is really quick to sweep it up. And I mean, I don't fucking care, to be honest. Right. And I'll talk more about this. It's like, how many times have we said we don't need to be the superpower in the world? Yeah. I mean, it is going to affect us drastically. It's going to hurt. It's going to bring some growing pains, but I don't know. Maybe the U.S. does need to be knocked down a couple pegs. Does that make us anti-American? Am I like a traitor for saying that?
No, I don't think so. I think it's the way that the country's gone, in the last 20 years, 24 years, 23 years.
I don't know, 30 years, 100.
Well, since World War II, I mean, it's just been kind of a steady decline.
Right.
We peaked in the 40s, 1940s.
Sadly, yes. Now, that's not to say that if the U.S. gets knocked down a few pegs, that I think it's good that somebody else steps in and takes up the mantle, because that's not going to be any better. It's like, why can't we all just leave the mantle alone? Just fucking leave everybody alone.
I think for the last several years, the U.S. has kind of been the UN's attack dog, kind of their enforcer. And since the United States is kind of getting godfathered now, I think that China's stepping up,
Right.
They need a new enforcer.
I think that we've talked about China plenty of times. I think that's been the plan,
Absolutely.
At least from like the World Economic Forum standpoint.
Yes.
They've praised China for a decade, decade and a half now. It's just
they're the gold standard.
Yeah, these guys are great. We should follow their standard. And if the conspiracy theory is true that the World Economic Forum is trying to make this global order, they're promoting China as kind of leading the charge. They're definitely not
right.
They're definitely not predicting that the U.S. will lead the charge.
No, well, the United States, in the eyes of the UN or the WEF or whatever you want to call it, they can't handle their shit. Right. They can't get their people under wraps.
Well, they can't get them all on board with this whole global strategy that works, that the EU has fallen in line with, supposedly, even though now we're getting pop-ups of these very nationalistic states like Italy and others in Poland and stuff.
Others are kind of following suit now.
Yeah, but maybe that's because of all the influence from the United States and how the world views the United States. It's like, if we can knock the U.S. down, maybe all these smaller states will realize, oh, that's not all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk. We're just gonna kind of jump all over the place tonight, I guess. It's been a while since we've jumped all over the place.
We haven't done a jumpy one.
We haven't. Derek is here. He says, Team America, World Police. America.
Woo!
Fuck yeah. Derek, it's good to have you on the show. Good to have you in the comments, as usual. We haven't even started. I forgot. This is still the pre-show.
Yes.
I was like, all right, let's keep going. It's like we haven't even. No, before.
We were just too excited. It's
We
been
did,
a
we
while, and we're getting into it. And
Yes. We still got to play our intro video.
Yes.
What is this show without an intro video?
Exactly.
Before we get into that video and get into the rest of the show, make sure you check us out all over the social medias, the interwebs, and everywhere that you can find us. You can find all those links at our website, which is www.breakthebellpod.com. You can find us on social media at our handle @BreakTheBellPod. You can get access from our website to all our freaking sweet merch, like the I Won't Eat Your Bugs shirt, which kind of plays into all of this. Now, side note, I did see there's a country, I just briefly went across a headline, but I was like in research mode, so I couldn't like I have to discipline myself to not venture off the trail too far. But the headline said there was a country that was like banning the use of bugs in food products.
Cool. Good.
Yeah, somebody's going to go to war against that country pretty soon. They're going
right.
against the grain. They're like, you eat the bugs or you will die. So, yeah, that's the next nation to fall. Somebody's going to go take out their freaking president or something. I can't remember. I'm going to have to read into that. Maybe that's next week's episode. So we got the I Won't Eat Your Bug shirt. We got the We Are Not Your Pawns shirt. Some merch logos, some shirts, and some cups, and all that fun stuff. So check all that out at breakthebellpod.com. Buy our shit and look awesome. That is my sales pitch.
I like it.
Just buy our shit and look awesome. Again, like I said, like, share, subscribe, all the things the kids these days tell you to do so we can be famous, because that's, I mean, the goals that we strive for is fame and fortune. And we're definitely not at the fortune level, so we're going for the fame level. So we got to, I guess we got to pick one or the other.
Yeah, nobody gets some ball.
I guess. I'm ready to get into the show.
Let's do it.
Let's get into the show. When we come back, we're going to talk about these leaky documents, and we're going to talk about kind of the U.S. losing its position of dominance in the world. So we'll be right back.
What did you say?
You talking to me?
What the heck are you talking about?
What did you say?
What did you say? What did you say?
Are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me?
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
What did you say?
What did you say?
Are you talking to me?
Well, maybe he was talking to me.
What did you say?
Talk to me.
What in heaven's name are you talking about?
Talk to me, baby.
Did you just say?
What did you say?
You listen to me. Are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me?
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
And we're back. And Bill's head is gone. There it is. There's Bill's head. You need to slide over or something.
I know.
You need to, like, shift.
I naturally lean right.
I don't know what to tell you.
I don't.
Then just
either.
have your head chopped off from my logo.
It's just the promo part. So I'll be back when the promo's gone.
All right, fair enough. So, Bill, how you been?
I've been good, man. I've been good. It was a busy weekend, but it was a good family weekend.
It was a busy weekend and a good fun family weekend.
Yeah.
Did you drink any Bud Light this weekend, or have you boycotted the Bud Light?
I don't typically drink Bud Light as it is, so it wasn't really a thought of mine. So
now, the reason why I asked that is because a lot of the shit that I'm talking about today kind of was brushed aside this week because of, like, all of social media has just been occupied with Bud Light.
Yes.
And in my personal opinion, who fucking cares?
Right.
On one hand, yes, I do believe that in the least, I would say it's a bold strategy. That's a bold move, Cotton.
Very bold.
Bold move, Cotton.
Yes.
When,
yes.
What do you think, like, 80% of the base of Budweiser drinkers are? Ultra conservative, like,
conservative,
white guys,
rural
white
America.
dudes.
Yes.
I mean, maybe they realize that and they're like,
not
we don't want to look.
conscious.
We don't want to look. We don't want that to
Yeah.
be. Maybe people like us that are like, your fan base is predominantly white bearded men
right.
on farms, and they're like, well, maybe we don't want to be that anymore. On the other hand, I'm like,
They certainly accomplished that.
yeah. On the other hand, I mean, you're possibly isolating like a good chunk of your fan base. B, I mean, you're expanding your market. Who
I'd
cares?
be curious. Well, but are they? I mean, how many?
Attempting to at least.
How many trans people do you think will suddenly be like, "Fuck yeah, pass me a Bud Light"?
What are you saying about trans people? You just expect them all to drink
No,
like White Claws and
I'm
foo-foo
saying
drinks?
I believe they have better taste.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Anyways, this isn't about Bud Light. This is about not Bud Light, I guess. I just think it's funny that just all of social media, even the people that are like, well, all anybody's talking about is Bud Light. It's like, yeah, so are you, and so are we now. So.
Right. Yeah, so they accomplished whatever they were hoping to
Yeah,
accomplish.
they got you.
People are talking about
people
it.
are talking about Bud Light. Is that
I
good?
mean, so it went because Anheuser-Busch, right, which
Yeah.
is the maker of,
Yeah.
and also the sponsors of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah.
So is their new mascot going to be this trans person for the Cardinals? Are you going to get a hat with the trans person on their hat?
I don't fucking know. I'm not even I'm
The St.
gonna-
Louis trannies.
Shut the fuck up. I'm gonna boycott the Cardinals. If I'm gonna boycott the Cardinals because their year is starting out so shitty right now. No, I'm not a fair weather fan. I'm still going to be watching. Probably not tonight because we're doing this show, but I have thought about getting a separate laptop and just having the game up here so I can actually watch it while.
I've done that. When the Steelers have played Monday night, I'd have the game on my phone.
That's
and
why you suck so bad at this. No, that's just. So do the Steelers play every Monday night? That's the.
Well, I watch recordings.
So let's get on track here. Let's get on track. I think it's fair to say that at least for the better part of a century, the U.S. has at least viewed itself as kind of the backbone of the free world.
Oh, I would say, up from World War II, where we apparently pulled everybody's bacon out of the fire against the Nazis.
The Nazis.
Yes, I would say up until now, if you ask Joe Biden, he would say, "Fuck yeah, we are the stone that the earth is built upon." The
Yes,
rock.
We
of
are the
nations.
solid rock. Yes. Now, do you think we're still there? Would you say that?
No.
Do other
No.
like I said, the U.S. at least has seen us
Yeah.
that way. Do you think other countries see us as the backbone of the free world, quote unquote? I should say, quote unquote, free
I
world.
would say maybe third world nations do.
The ones that we're bombing the shit out of,
Yes.
mostly, and,
yes.
and like putting.
Because they see our dominance.
Oh, okay. Like I want to be like that, so
Yes,
we can bomb
yes.
the shit out of other countries, not
Yes.
get the shit bombed.
No,
out of
I
us.
think nations that third world nations, maybe African nations, whatever. I think they still hold the United States up to a certain
Think
light.
so. What about like the EU?
The EU, no, I think they hate us.
What about China?
China, I think that they laugh at us.
China laughs at us. What about Russia?
Russia laughs at us.
Russia's just like, dude, you're not everything you're cracked up to
Yeah.
be, and we're gonna prove it.
Exactly. But Russia's not everything they've been cracked up to be.
Do you think we have this weird narcissistic complex that we're better than we think we are?
Oh, absolutely. We
yeah.
do. Yes.
Do you think, like, at what point do you think that turned, though? Like, because I feel like after World
Yeah.
War II, everybody did kind of hold us to that.
No, and I think even through the 80s, I think that we were there. I think our chicken started coming home to roost is what it was. I think that all the nation building we had done to fight the commies kind of backfired on everybody. And
then that transitioned to the world on terror,
yeah.
where
Yeah.
we were just like, if you're not for us, you're against us.
Right. Yeah. But even then, I think that was kind of the waning days. I think Obama going through and bowing and apologizing to everybody probably didn't help.
No, probably not. Everybody's like, oh, well, this is America now.
I was going to kiss your ass, but okay.
All right, this works. I
Right.
could get used to this.
Right.
I mean, maybe, yeah. I think as the internet developed and the shittiness of like our actions kind of what has been exposed throughout the years, like, I mean, just think about just in the last year how many like not good leaks
Yeah.
about
Right.
America and how they've like handled their allies, not even
Right.
their enemies, like their allies. It's like, wait, you were spying on me? Wait, you bombed our oil supply?
Right.
Like, at what point do our allies like, this isn't great. No, we don't like
Yeah.
this anymore. We don't like this relationship isn't working out.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
at what point? Because yeah, America is the backbone of NATO. Absolutely, 100%
absolutely,
the
yeah.
backbone of NATO. But what happens when the rest of the countries in NATO are like, fuck you, we don't like this anymore?
But see, that's the funny part about it is I think the United States still, they have a lot of influence because of NATO and everything. And, the way we build up nations, because our military is still, it's still top,
Well, obviously.
right? But I mean, you can't really help that. But, but,
We can't help it that our military's fucking awesome.
how
And
many
we kill the
times-
most people.
right? I mean, shit. No, but like you said, when you drop the ball enough, right, and many nations pay the price for that, and because the United States obviously has a Euro complex,
Yeah.
the United States wants to be Europe.
Mhm.
I mean, they do.
At
the
least
problem is,
at a political level.
Exactly.
Not the
but
general
even cultural,
populace.
I think.
Yeah,
I think culturally they want to be like
the
Europe.
left liberal culture, yeah.
Yeah.
The Hollywood culture, yeah.
Yes.
I think there's a
The elitist, I think, want
There's
to.
a big majority of like the rural living, Budweiser
Right.
drinking
Yes,
folks
but,
like
but
us.
those are the people the United States doesn't like to talk about.
We're the bastard stepchildren.
We are, but unfortunately, we still dictate a lot of what happens with the country, and that's why Europe hates us.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. That's a fair assessment. So yeah, I mean again, for like 100 years we've been spreading our
Yes.
freedom across the world
Oh
as
fuck yeah, we've
just
been whipping it out, and
blowing our
just,
freedom
boom,
just
all
all over
everywhere.
the world.
Yeah.
We've discussed like to what cost that comes. Like, God, so many bad like.
Wait, once
Verbiage.
you go down that road.
At what cost? Like, I mean, we're spreading our freedom, but like we're making these countries free by taking out elected leaders,
Right.
making it freer for who, us or them?
Right. It's
It-
always been about us.
It seems like more and more, especially as of late, we're doing a lot to damage our reputation across the globe.
Mm-hmm.
And it keeps finding its way into the public eyes, like the shitty things we do, like in other countries, like the spying and the espionage and the overthrowing of other governments and stuff. Maybe it's the internet. Like I said, maybe because we said maybe in the last 20 plus years, the internet has been a big thing. Maybe you didn't know this, weren't aware, but the internet kind of took off about that time too. So maybe just free flow of information lets more of these countries know we're not that good. We're not as good as we think we are.
And I think education has gotten better. I think that in third world countries in particular, there's been a move to kind of understand more of like their own histories. And by reading that, they're like, fuck, man, the U.S. fucked us over.
Europe, yeah, pretty much. So at what point does the rest of the world, like I said, say, no thanks, but no thanks, we don't need you anymore? Like, we
think
don't need your help anymore.
When China has taken our place as the UN's
When the
enforcer.
money runs out, specifically.
Well, yeah, right, exactly.
Which is coming
Yes,
soon,
very soon.
I think.
And when the
Like-
money runs out, the military can't sustain,
Right.
and there's no need for us anymore.
Right. We're like the sugar mama to the rest of the world. And when we go broke, they're like,
Yeah.
I never loved you. I never loved you at all.
You know, Hong over here, he's
Hong is hung.
He's got a lot more dough.
He does. He's got some money. He's a freaking high society guy, and I have a high society life here, and you're not holding it up anymore. So all this to say, in the last few days, has come to light that some more top secret documents have found their way to the interwebs.
Yes.
And we're not talking like an internet hack.
Right.
Like the WikiLeaks and stuff was, or Snowden, that was like a hack, or just like, I mean, yeah, Snowden stole some These are like, the photos of these, here, I'll pull them up, are like crumpled up, folded up, legit documents. Like somebody from a high profile meeting just folded them up and stuck them in their pocket and walked away with them.
Huh.
Because here's one.
My guess is General Milley.
You
I
think
never liked that bastard.
I mean, look at these. These are not. These are not.
Yeah.
This is not an Edward Snowden style hack here.
Right, right.
That's not the one I wanted. But you got. I mean, they're
This is old school.
stuff it in your briefcase, stuff it in your pants, whatever.
Right.
Sneak out with the documents, and it looks like it's like PowerPoint slides. The stuff that it's like the cliff notes of what's really going on that they give to the generals and like the high profile people, and they're like,
And
here,
they're like,
this
for
is what
your
we-"
eyes only.
and they're like, oh,
Just destroy it when you're done reading it.
Now, the question is this something that one of those people like intentionally leaked, like got out with, or is it something that they just weren't thinking and just like stuffed in their pocket and then dropped it on the road and somebody's like, "Ooh, this looks interesting."
They probably turned it into their dry cleaner and didn't realize that shit was in their pocket. I mean, that's my guess. Is it
Probably
was,
Biden.
it
Probably fell
probably
out of
was
Biden's
Biden.
pocket
It
at an
was.
ice cream restaurant.
It probably was.
It's probably that's the most likely scenario.
He
here.
gave him to Hunter to hold on to, and Hunter's like, "Ooh, this could be worth something."
Hunter used it to snort coke.
Yes.
Or
he rolled it up really tight and
yes. So like I said, it's not just it's not your everyday run of the mill hack.
No.
This isn't some sophisticated
No.
thing. Now the other interesting part is how it got out there. It wasn't just on like a centralized thing like WikiLeaks. It was like it started through like Discord.
Yes.
And like it was filtered first. I think one of the first places it was found was a Minecraft Discord channel. Was just like, what are all these are they like secret espionage people, but they're like masked as like Minecraft players?
Well, yeah. I mean, I can't remember what show it was, but they were using like PlayStation 4, like Call of Duty to like display to communicate like mission codes and stuff.
I mean, it's freaking genius.
It
like,
is genius.
What government official would be like, we need to check the Minecraft Discord
check the
server.
PlayStation 4.
I mean, it's bizarre. This whole thing's kind of bizarre.
It is.
Let's just take a look at this. This is from NPR. It says, top secret Pentagon documents on the Ukraine war appear on social media. Now, this is what they're labeling this as, is documents on the Ukraine war. And yeah, a lot of them are, but there's other stuff in there too. And some of that stuff came more to light actually today. Like 5 minutes ago, I came across some more stuff. So I'm going to try to get to that stuff too. But this came out on the 7th, so like 3 days ago. This is like one of the first articles reporting this. It says, top secret Pentagon documents with details about the war in Ukraine have been published on at least 2 social media sites, Twitter and Telegram, and Discord. They didn't mention that.
I saw Substack in there.
Okay. So back then they knew of at least Twitter and Telegram. And Telegram is one of those like private chats where like encrypted private chats. And part of me believes that this is going to be a way to crack down on some of those like private like encrypted chat like because they went after them after like J6 and said people were communicating through those through like Telegram and Signal and all those other apps. And
I had read an article where somebody was saying they needed to go after Elon Musk for espionage charges because he won't remove
because
it.
he didn't take it down. Yep, I seen that too, and we might get to some of that too. We'll see how far we get. It says the revelation set off alarm bells at the Pentagon, which is trying to determine how the material was leaked or stolen. I don't think it's that hard to tell how. It's very clear that somebody stuck this in their pocket and walked away.
Right.
I mean, that's the only explanation for this.
Yeah.
Because if these are legitimate, which it seems like they're legitimate, these seem to have just walked away from a meeting. Like,
but you're the first person I've seen that have shown the hard copies. The other articles I had seen, they were talking about it was a Russian hack. Yeah.
It's
so
not a Russian
you're the
hack.
first one that showed me hard copies of that. So
now people are saying that this is potentially a Russian leak to blah, 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 blah. But it's like somebody got away with those documents, though.
Right.
Like they originated from inside the building.
Right, yeah. Yeah, like you said, those are hard copies.
Unless there's a Russian agent inside the building,
Would
which
it surprise you?
is possible. So it goes on, it says, we are aware of the reports of social media posts and the department is reviewing the matter, said Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh. The Department of Justice has opened an investigation into the leaks and has been in communication with the Department of Defense. DOJ spokesperson Xochitl Hinojosa told NPR in a statement. Interesting. The DOJ declined further comment. The documents include maps of Ukraine and charts on where troops are concentrated and what kind of weapons are available to them. Do you think Ukraine got pissed off when they found out about this? Like, God damn it.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we got a bunch of troops concentrated here, and we got weapon stations concentrated here, and now it's all over the internet. It's like,
Well, I had seen, again, I read an article where they're saying how Ukraine intelligence is now like wanting to cut the United States off.
oh, yeah? They're going to cut the United States
Right,
off.
yeah.
They're going to cut the...
How they didn't want our intelligence agencies to be linked to begin with, and this just proves that the United States intelligence can't be trusted.
We want your money, not your intel.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's see how far that goes. Let's
Right.
see how long Ukraine stands up.
Well, especially if these
Without the US
papers seem
money.
accurate with the numbers and statistics that they're talking about.
Well, we'll get to that because that one's funny. That part's funny.
Yeah.
It says they include maps of Ukraine and charts where troops are concentrated and what kind of weapons are available. The online post shows photos of physical documents that were folded and creased in some instances. One is labeled Top Secret and is titled Status of the Conflict as of 1 March. It gives a detailed battlefield summary on that particular day, though it's not clear why the documents are emerging now, more than a month after they were prepared. The story was first reported by the New York Times. NPR has also seen the documents online, but is not publishing links to them. Military analysts say the documents appear genuine, but think the original versions were likely altered in some places. Now, here's the parts where, like, everything seems up and up, except one chart puts the Ukraine death toll around 71,000, a figure that is considered plausible. However, the chart also lists Russian fatalities at 16,000 to 17,500. The Russian count is believed to be much higher, though neither side releases overall casualty figures. Now, that's the part they're like, this is clearly altered because this makes us look like we're losing the fucking war. So we got to tell...
Obviously, Russia has much more.
We got to tell people that this is clearly altered because
I thought that was hilarious.
We don't want the people to think that we're spending billions of dollars on a war that we are that not we, because we're not fighting it technically. But that the money is like not winning the war.
Right.
So we got to convince, like every article I've read has said that this part is clearly altered. It's like,
is it?
But you confirmed that this is probably legit. But
except for that part.
Except that part. right. Those figures, don't look at those because this is not real.
You can't trust the numbers.
Also, the chart with the death toll is printed on a black background, while all the other charts on the page are printed on a white background. I'm convinced, guys. I'm convinced. That means it's not true because that one had a black background, the others had a white background.
You don't mix the backgrounds.
You don't mix
No.
Every graphic designer knows you don't mix backgrounds.
Yes.
I mean, that's just you got to have like uniformity across your presentation.
You know what I think I think that those figures, they were probably redacted and then somebody wrote in the real number in there.
Possible.
Because I do believe those figures to be accurate.
I think they're probably more accurate than what the U.S. is
and that's why
probably
the
telling us.
United States is like, fuck, no, that's not real.
No, it's not real at all.
They have like 300,000 casualties.
It's not clear how valuable the information might be to the Russian military. Yeah. The papers published online do not reveal Ukrainian battle plans for a widely expected offensive this spring. Still, they do mention combat brigades that Ukraine is assembling and when they should be ready to fight. It doesn't say when they're going to fight. It doesn't say what they're going to do, but it is saying these brigades are assembling and when they should expect to fight.
Yes. Well, and the funny thing about that is everybody knows that May is the beginning of no mud season.
Yep.
So they know May is when they're going. Everybody knows that.
Yeah. but it's not included in those documents.
Of course
so
not.
we're good.
Right,
we're good there.
Yes.
The identity of those who published the documents and their motives are not known. Putting the documents online alerted the Pentagon and that they had been leaked or stolen, which might not have been otherwise known. Well, obviously, if you didn't post it online, nobody's going to know about it. Not even, like, literally nobody except you. So it's like, wasn't till the perpetrator fucked up and posted it online. If they hadn't made that obvious mistake, that clear mistake of publishing this online, we would have never caught up to them. But then they screwed up. They published this online, and the whole world saw. But we found out about it. We found out about it. So we're obviously on the right track here. Before the war, Russian intelligence agencies were considered extremely active in Ukraine. Russia and Ukraine were both part of the Soviet Union, and the Russian President Putin, a former intel agent himself, had meddled in Ukrainian affairs throughout his time in power, including the initial 2014 military incursion. Did you know Vladimir Putin meddled in Ukrainian affairs in 2014?
I had no idea.
How dare that bastard?
Right? Why would he get involved in another country's business?
Why in 2014, of all the shit that's going on, why would Putin decide to meddle in the affairs and try to place his own president?
Right?
No, wait, that was us. That was fucking us.
Oh shit! Yeah, we did. The Nazi thing,
no,
didn't
we did that thing. We did. We meddled. We meddled hard.
But it doesn't say that in the document, though.
They failed to mention that in this article. In the run-up to Russia's full-scale invasion in February 22, the U.S. intelligence community intentionally publicized some information about the Russian plans. The goal was to persuade the international community that the threat of a Russian attack was real. CIA Director William Burns had made multiple visits to Ukraine and spoken about the ongoing intelligence sharing between two countries. I don't know what they're going with this. If they're like trying to, I don't know, get out in front of it and like justify their intelligence, their spying and stuff. Because some of the stuff to come out is like they're directly spying on Zelensky himself. Yeah. And this article is like, well, leading up to the war, U.S. intel was critical at blah, 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 and blah, 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 and U.S. intel and this. And it's just like,
they're trying to justify
just so you know, U.S. intel is good, guys. So before you get into the meat and potatoes of this, just know that our meddling has been good, and Russia's meddling has been bad.
Yes.
We
only do good meddling.
Yes, only the best meddling. On the battlefield, Russians continue to press a months-long offensive in eastern Ukraine, in and around the town of Bakhmut, but the Russian military has only made progress in heavy fighting that has claimed thousands of casualties on both sides. The Ukrainians are widely expected to launch their own offensive this spring, and most analysts expect it to focus on areas controlled by Russian troops in southeast Ukraine. A senior Ukrainian security official said that no more than 5 people in the world know when and where the counteroffensive will begin. So don't worry, Joe Biden doesn't know about it. So it's not gonna end up on the floor of an ice cream shop. What do you think so far? What do you think of all this?
You know, the more this goes, the more I wonder, like, is there actually a fucking war?
We've been asking that for for the last year plus.
Right.
It's like, is there even a war over there?
Yeah.
I have my doubts.
I
have my reservations over as whether we're even fighting a war. What do you think of this leak, though? Do you think it's a real thing? You're like an intentional leak? Like, what would the reasoning behind an intentional leak be?
Maybe they're trying to, I don't know, throw Russia off. Maybe they're trying to. I mean, I don't know.
I had seen one thing where they're like, because of those obviously fabricated numbers, so like maybe this was something that the Russians would latch onto and think that they're doing better than they actually are. So maybe that was the whole reasoning behind this, to bait Russia into thinking they're doing better than they are, and like throw them off the scent that they're not doing good at all.
Yeah. I mean, I could see this being like maybe an outdated battle plan, you know, and that they released just to maybe, again, find ways to crack down on things, like you said, maybe because
crack down more domestically.
That resist bill that's in Congress right now, you know, is going to crack down a lot on social media and on people's emails and stuff. And so maybe this is kind of a doorway to that.
So let's take a look at some of the stuff that has come out of this leak, because I had one article, but it didn't say much. Like, all it said was, let's see, all it talked about was basically some of the maps and stuff from Ukraine, and then some information on the U.S. spying on some of its allies.
Yeah.
And it didn't go into too much detail into it. It's just like and I'm just like, okay, that doesn't sound like much for being considered like the largest leak
Right.
in 10 years.
Right.
Well, Zero Hedge came out this afternoon and kind of broke it down a little bit better for us on what was in that leak. Talks about, here's what we know so far from the leaked intelligence files. The U.S. is spying on Zelensky, which
We should be.
I'm okay with that. We're
I'm
giving him $1 billion.
I was going to say, you give somebody that kind of money, then yes, you should have a couple people sitting in his office at all times.
Says the highly classified Pentagon documents which were leaked online in recent weeks, but which began being confirmed and reported as authentic by the New York Times and others only in the past few days, contain some embarrassing revelations. This has sent the DOJ and U.S. intelligence officials scrambling to discover the source of the leaks. CNN is confirming Monday, based on the documents which appear online, that the U.S. has been spying on Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, a disclosure which has caused officials in Kiev to be deeply frustrated. What, you're spying on us?
But why? I thought we were friends.
Why are you spying on us?
We spy on all our friends.
We spy on everyone.
Yes.
Like, you know you're not our friends when we stop spying on you.
Exactly. We only spy on our friends.
One document reveals the U.S. has been spying on Zelensky, CNN reports. That is unsurprisingly, said the source close to Zelensky, but Ukrainian officials are deeply frustrated about the leak. U.S. intel documents suggest that American officials have been worried about possible Zelensky decision-making to strike deep into Russian territory, which would escalate the war and potentially bring Russia and NATO into direct clashes. So they're like, you know, this guy's kind of a loose cannon. We want to give him our weapons, but we don't want him to...
The fuck is that?
Oh, that's my alarm.
Me.
That's me. It's time, guys. The time's up. We're out of time. Let me turn that shit off. Lost my train of thought.
Yeah, so Zelensky's a loose cannon.
Zelensky potentially is planning to strike deep into Russia, and the U.S. is like, that's a terrible fucking idea.
But see, I think the United States would really want that. They're probably like, okay.
They do, but they can't say that they do.
Yeah, right. So they have to say, you know what would be a really loose cannon idea that only you could do because you're the awesome person of freedom? Strike at Russia.
All that would do is bring NATO into direct
right.
conflict with Russia. We don't want that, wink, wink.
Yeah, right.
We don't want to direct NATO in conflict with Russia.
That would be that would mean that we would escalate things and have to get our hands dirty.
U.S. intel report, which is sourced to Signals Intelligence, says that Zelensky in late February suggested striking Russian deployment locations in Russia's Rostov Oblast using unmanned aerial vehicles, since Ukraine does not have long-range weapons capable of reaching that far. An additional possibility is that the U.S. intel community might be monitoring the Ukraine presidency office as part of efforts to oversee and account for how tens of billions in aid sent to Kiev is being utilized. How good are they doing at monitoring that, though?
Yeah, right. Yachts,
Right.
mansions,
Money just disappearing,
right.
all willy-nilly. The Washington Post details that many of the documents seem to have been prepared over the winter for General Milley. You said you
See?
called it.
Yes.
Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and other senior military officials, but they were available to other U.S. personnel and contract employees with the requisite security clearances. Now, what contractors have the security clearance that need to see this? Like
Right.
contract killers is the only thing I
Right,
can think
yeah.
of.
Maybe, BlackRock.
Locations of... All right, so this is 14 major revelations contained within the leak.
Okay.
So this is like kind of the more in-depth
Yeah.
look than the last article I originally had. That was just like, we a little bit on the plans of Zelensky and then a little bit of spying from the U.S.
Yeah.
This breaks it
This
down.
is the meat and potatoes.
Yes. Number one, locations of CIA recruitment efforts focused on human agents which have access to closed-door conversations of world leaders. So Spy locations.
They're looking for spies.
Spy
Yes.
recruitment locations for the CIA.
Yes, finding moles.
Or human agents. I like how they
Yes.
call them human
Yes.
agents.
That's better than dog agents.
Number 2, Russia's Wagner Group had tried to obtain weapons from a NATO member, Turkey. Also, some of the internal future plans of Wagner are apparently known to U.S. intelligence. So, a NATO member is possibly like in some sort of talking.
Yeah, which
with
I believe
Russia.
Turkey was the one that was trying to de-escalate things.
Mhm.
Turkey was kind of like, "Hey guys, let's not do this."
But if it comes out that Turkey was maybe in talks to provide some weapons to Russia,
that's huge.
that might be look a little bit bad, and Turkey probably doesn't want that to get out. Details now if it came out that, because it seems like that second part that U.S. intelligence apparently kind of knew about it,
right,
and just kind of playing like what is this war, like you were saying,
right,
like if it's just like, well, part of us are backdooring Russia and part of us are backdooring Ukraine,
right.
but
right.
we don't want each other to find out about it.
Yeah.
Because this is the war that causes all the wars, but we're kind of financing both sides. It almost seems like every other war in the history of U.S. meddling.
Right. Yeah.
Number 3, details of sensitive satellite technology used to track Russian forces, namely the Lapis time series video, described as an advanced satellite system, which up until now has been a closely guarded secret.
Oops.
Yeah. Number 4, Ukraine battlefield assessments prepared by the Pentagon. So them like assessing like how things are going
Right.
on the
Yeah.
battlefield, even though we're supposedly neutral to
Right.
this whole
Yeah.
thing, but yeah.
Yeah. The Eastern Front could use a little bit more artillery, and the Western Front
Yes.
could probably use
The next one says The Guardian reported one slide suggested that a small contingent of less than 100 special ops personnel from NATO members France, America, Britain, and Latvia are already active in Ukraine.
We kind of suspected that.
We knew that.
Yeah.
But now it's out in the public, so
Right,
that's going to look a little bit bad. So we've got like black ops type people from
Mm-hmm.
all, like a bunch of the main NATO countries are in Ukraine.
So
like,
maybe
helping out.
they're dressed as like peasants, from that video we
The-
watched.
the
but they
Oliver
actually-
Twist peasants.
Yes, but they actually have like high
They show
performance
up.
weapons.
They show up to Ukraine dressed like Oliver Twist, and they're like, "We're Ukrainians like you." And they're like, "The fuck are you wearing?"
Yeah, right. I think our intelligence was off.
We're not feds at all. We are not feds. We are one of you. Look how we dress just like you.
See, we have a horse and buggy.
The next one says descriptions of intelligence collected or collection activities by the CIA, NSA, Defense Intelligence Agency, law enforcement agencies, and the National Reconnaissance Office. So a bunch of intelligence collections. It doesn't specify on what.
Yeah.
The next one says on February 23rd, a February 23 review of the battlefield situation in Ukraine's Donbass, forecasting a grinding campaign of attrition by Russia that is likely heading towards a stalemate, thwarting Moscow's goal to capture the entire region in 2023. I'm sure nobody that's been told that we're going to spend billions of dollars on this war want to know that this is going to end in a stalemate.
Right. Yeah, right.
Nobody wants to hear that. The Washington Post reported one of the things was the U.S. intelligence community has penetrated the Russian military and its commanders so deeply it can warn Ukraine in advance of attacks and reliably assess the strengths and weaknesses of Russian forces. So U.S. intel has as spies in the Russian
Wouldn't that,
military.
I mean, if you're Russian officials and you get this news, I mean, what's the first thing you would do?
You start shooting people.
Exactly.
Start
right?
fucking shooting
Start
people.
creating like, okay, a little dissent, a little like distrust in the ranks.
Mm-hmm. It's like, do you like McDonald's fries? Yes? Boom. You're dead.
Right? Yes. You like blue jeans, huh?
Baseball or what's a sport? Baseball or hockey? I don't know. What do Russians play?
Hockey.
Okay. Baseball or hockey? Oh, baseball. Boom.
Right.
American spy. You're a spy.
Yeah.
What's your favorite NFL team? Boom. You're a
Yeah.
spy.
Don't you love Bruce Springsteen?
Let's see. A single page in the leak trove revealed that the U.S. intel community knew that the Russian Ministry of Defense had transmitted plans to strike Ukrainian troop positions in 2 locations on a certain date in February, and military planners were prepping to strike on a dozen energy facilities on an equal number of bridges in Ukraine. The next one says a summary of analysis from the CIA's World Intelligence Review, a daily publication for senior policymakers, said that Beijing is likely to view attacks by Ukraine deep inside Russian territory as an opportunity to cast NATO as the aggressor. So that might be one reason the U.S. doesn't want Zelensky to launch like deep inside Russian territory, because they're like, China's not going to like that. China's going to love that actually, but they're going to play it off as NATO is definitely the aggressor and kind of turn the opinion of this whole excursion. Let's see. Ukraine's robust Soviet-era air defense, which have thus far minimized the participation of Russian aircraft, could run out of ammunition in the next several weeks. I'm sure Ukraine doesn't want Russia knowing that.
Right.
It's like, if we don't replenish their air defenses, they're not going to hold up much longer. And Russia's like, hold the line. We were about to back off.
Yeah,
but a couple. We can hold out for a couple more.
We can
weeks.
send a couple more up the next couple weeks.
A purported CIA intelligence update claims Israel's Mossad supported protests against Prime Minister Netanyahu's Supreme Court reform scheme. So, according to the CIA, Israel's CIA was basically working against its own government.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Working against Netanyahu, which Israel says, no, that didn't happen, but you guys need to get your shit together. We don't like you leaking our information. One report says internal discussions show South Korean officials are wary of requests to hand over artillery shells to the United States to replenish American stockpiles out of concern they'd end up in Ukraine. So a couple of these things,
that's valid.
One being Israel and one being South Korea, there is information out there that the U.S. is pressuring them to basically provide lethal aid. Right. Both of them are like, we have these kind of working neutrality agreements that we don't provide lethal aids. And the U.S. is like, don't worry, we have an option for you. Just sign up now. You're not providing lethal aid to Ukraine. You're just providing lethal aid to your allies, us, the United States. You're just sending your ammo to us.
Yeah, we'll figure out where it
goes.
We're
sending our ammo there. You're just It's kind of like what we were doing with Poland. Poland's like, yeah, we'll send all our planes if you send us more planes. And the U.S. is like, well, that's fair. It's a nice workaround. Yeah. It got out that basically they were putting that kind of pressure both on Israel and South Korea, and both of them are kind of pissed that because it makes them look bad. It's like their whole image of neutrality kind of goes out the window, even though they were both reluctant. But the U.S. is like, no, all those favors that you owe us, we're calling in our chips. Right. And so that information kind of is getting out there. The last one says, another report says Ukrainian air defense is in peril if it's not reinforced by Western allies. Again, back to Ukraine's air defense. Talks about the expanding breadth of subject matter has many suggesting a U.S. source is responsible. It's being called a nightmare for the Five Eyes, which is the five major countries that kind of have
it was like
joint intelligence and stuff.
Like England, France, America. I don't remember the other two.
This guy says, and this one's interesting. This is Francis Scarr says, one aspect of the Pentagon leak not being discussed on state TV is the indication of how deeply Russia's security and intelligence services have been penetrated by the U.S. But former spook, I don't know what spook is.
Spy. A spy.
That's a spy?
Yeah.
Leonid Reshnikov, sounds Russian, brought it up today, prompting Olga Skabayeva to change the subject very subtly.
So, but something I see in this, and maybe this is my spook mind, this could very much be an intelligence document that's leaked that could just really throw a wrench in everybody's plans for Russia's plans, right? Because Russia suddenly has a distrust of their inner workings, right? So they have to clean house.
That's
right.
Fair.
Also, what if what if Ukraine actually has been replenished with their, but Russia doesn't know it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they keep pushing, thinking that, okay, they're going to run out here soon.
Yeah, what if you leak out there that Ukrainian
right? They're
air
about out
defense
of
is about out of ammo,
yeah.
and
So
the U.S. can't get Seoul and
right,
freaking Israel on board with
yeah.
with replenishing them. So what I mean, they're going to run out. So
Right.
yeah, they keep holding the line when at the end of the day, yeah,
Right.
this could be a false leak.
Absolutely. And maybe they threw a couple real things in there that don't really matter, just to that things that maybe Russia already knew, right? Like
Yeah,
the
to make it
the
seem
satellite
legitimate.
thing, right? And also, maybe they're throwing in there that Ukraine is going to try to push deep into Russian territory because they know Russia's not using their full forces and they're waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? I mean, this could totally be a red herring, just trying to get to kind of push Russia into the next stage of things.
I mean, the whole everything surrounding this whole like plot line just kind of seems a little made up.
Well, it does.
Like the whole folded up
paper.
paper.
Who does that?
Yeah, who even
Right?
like? Do they? I would think that in a highly classified, top secret briefing, they wouldn't pass out physical papers.
Right.
They'd have a PowerPoint slide.
Yes.
Everybody can see. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all know this, but we have this thing called projector screens now that we can, or
And
big ass TV monitors. They
Or at the
probably
very
even have
least,
holograms.
They make you destroy it before you leave the room.
Yeah. They account for it. They count them out.
Yeah.
And then I would like to think they're not passing out loose leaf papers anymore.
I would think so too.
I mean, I would think we're a little bit smarter than that because you can't encrypt loose leaf papers too easily.
And maybe I'm giving the United States too much credit.
I mean, that's true too. But I mean, it just sounds like a really bad spy novel.
It sounds like a bad sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oops, I dropped that piece of paper. I hope no one looks at it.
Well, yeah, you got to realize the U.S. is a really bad sitcom.
This is true. I mean, look who is running the country.
I mean, we're talking about like when the world started kind of losing faith in the U.S. I feel like Donald Trump and Joe Biden being back-to-back presidents, that kind of was maybe
Yeah.
not the turning point, but it definitely was the nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
well, we've got a TV star, not even a good TV star,
Right.
and then we have Joe
Yeah.
Biden.
Well, and it's true. I mean, our leaders have been cartoon characters the last couple times.
Yeah, you don't even have to make caricatures of them
Yeah.
like old political cartoons were. Like they are political cartoons. They're
they
not even
are.
the political. There's not even the political part. They're just cartoons
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Like you don't even have to try to make up a caricature of these people. They just are. That's just what they are.
Yeah.
So like, it's funny because like real life memes have replaced the creativity of political cartoon because it's just there. Idiocracy. We live in the movie Idiocracy.
Yeah.
Derek says, has the U.S. actually even won a war since World War II? Let's see. There was.
Has there been an official war?
No, I mean there was Vietnam.
That was a police action.
We didn't win that one. Korea.
That was a police action.
And we didn't win that one. The war on terror.
That's a bad example.
We didn't win that one. The first Gulf War.
That one we
I
won.
mean, we just kind of.
we just kind of pushed it off.
We
till
just
later.
we just kind of blew shit
Yeah,
up
that's
and
true.
then
Yeah.
went home.
That's true.
The Soviet Union. We
Yeah, I mean that's in process.
still. I don't know.
The
No,
war on drugs.
the answer is
yes.
the
Derek.
war on drugs. Absolutely, the
that-
war
yes.
on poverty.
Yes,
We're
yeah.
winning the war on poverty and the war on drugs.
Yes,
All the wars that matter.
right. War
So-
on inflation. Yeah, that's
So we've kind of covered what was in the leaks. Do you think the countries were a little bit pissed?
Oh, I think the countries are extremely pissed.
Now,
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, this article talks about this from U.S. News. It talks about how ally partners express their outrage. Now, this is not how I would express outrage.
Are they thumbing their teeth at us? Because that's what they do in Europe.
Throw shoes.
Yes,
They
throwing shoes
throw
at us.
shoes, and that's in the Middle East. Let's see, because I know South Korea was one of the pissed off ones. South Korea said the Department of Defense. No, this is not South Korea talking. This is the Defense Department talking. But sounds like my dogs are going crazy.
Yes.
South Korea was among those mentioned in the documents released in 2 batches last week that appeared to show planning documents and tactical assessments for operations in Ukraine prepared in late February and early March, with the apparent revelation that U.S. intelligence had eavesdropped on its top officials' communications regarding whether Seoul would provide weapons directly to Kiev. So this was the South Korea's response. It says, once the two countries finish figuring out the situation, we plan to request appropriate measures from the U.S. if necessary, said a spokesperson for President Yoon Suk Yeol, told reporters, according to local media, in a rare break of unity between U.S. and South Korea. This doesn't really sound like much outrage.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
we're going to request that they take appropriate measures. Like, whoa.
Right. Like,
Whoa.
shit.
Damn. They're pissed.
Right?
They are pissed. They must be really, like, passive-aggressive
Yeah,
because to come out and be like, you need to take appropriate measures. Be like, whoa, look who's,
right.
man, that guy's.
Unless in Korea, that's the equivalent of Putin saying, I wish you good health.
That's possible. That process will proceed based on a relationship of trust formed between two allies, he said. Says the disruption comes at a highly inconvenient time for the two powers following weeks of weapons tests and other provocations behavior from North Korea and weeks before Yoon and Biden are set to meet on April 26. South Korea's president office acknowledged that some forces may be trying to exaggerate this incident ahead of the South Korea-U.S. summit or distort it to undermine the alliance. It basically sounds more like not, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
But more of, how did you let this out? How did you let this happen? Like, South Korea is not like, why are you spying on us? They're like, this kind of looks bad, like makes us look like little bitches that you let this leak out. So can we contain this?
Right.
So it doesn't remind me of outrage. I would be, I mean, these countries have to know. Because if it was a country that didn't know that the U.S. was spying on them, they'd be like, dude, what the fuck?
Right.
What are you doing? Like, I thought we were friends. Why are you spying on me? It's like, why did you let this thing out of the bag?
Right.
And you need to contain this, please. Can
Yeah.
you please? Do you sense my outrage right now? Can you please contain this?
But, again, one of the things is if this is a manufactured leak, then maybe they're like, you know what? What's the worst that South Korea going to do, right?
Right.
Request that we take appropriate action.
True. Let's see. Ukrainian military officials Monday questioned the authenticity of the documents and emphasized claims that Russia was responsible for their release. An assertion backed by the fact that some of the documents were clearly altered to include information that heavily favors Russia, clearly because of the black background.
Yes.
Particularly regarding the rate by which its forces have died on Ukraine's battlefield. Russia, however, has offered assertions of its own, claiming Friday that the documents amounted to a U.S. attempt to lull the Kremlin into a false sense of advantage on the battlefield. Though Russia's state news was quick to capitalize on other details, included in the documents that could embarrass the U.S., such as an assessment that sophisticated JDAM-guided bombs sent to Ukraine have recently failed in Ukraine, its top officials largely distanced themselves from commenting on the documents. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, for example, declined to comment on the reports of the Russian encounter with a British spy plane. Some documents contain markings suggesting that they were shared with the Western intelligence network known as Five Eyes, which links governments of the U.S., UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Okay, so a lot of things here.
Yeah.
I'm not sensing the outrage I would think.
No.
But I don't think that anybody's going to report either that NATO is cracking at the seams.
Yeah, no, especially not now when it looks like, NATO is going to have to step up more.
But it brings me back to the question, I guess. Like, at what point, like, how much has to happen or get leaked out or how many embarrassing things have to happen for the NATO countries to be like, all right, you're cut off. Like, you got to stop. Like you were saying, Ukraine saying, please keep your intelligence out of this because it's doing more harm than good.
We wouldn't even be in this war if it wasn't for your fucking intelligence.
And this comes on the backs of multiple classified leak investigations, like the Trump stuff, the Biden stuff,
right? Documents found in garages.
Yeah,
right?
Just all kinds of just leaks out the ass. On top of that, like I said, the Nord Stream 2 attack,
Mhm.
that whole report from that news reporter that made the claims that the U.S. was responsible for the Nord Stream 2
Yeah.
attacks, which isn't an attack on Russia, it's a direct attack on
Right.
NATO allies.
Right, yeah.
So all this stuff, like, compiled on top of each other,
Yeah.
I would think at some point, yeah, you start to lose a little bit of faith in the U.S., the backbone of the free country,
Right.
the backbone support for all the wars,
Yeah.
all of them. I don't know. What do you think? Like,
I think that
how many embarrassing things have to happen before other countries are like, nah, no, stop.
I really think it's got to be catastrophic. I think it has to be a catastrophic failure to the point where an ally is virtually destroyed for people to be like, dude, you fucking dropped the ball. I mean, seriously, I think the United States is built up in a position right now that, yeah, it would have to be some kind of catastrophic failure for people to kind of turn and be like, okay, you know what? You can't handle this.
But if they're still fronting all the money, do they still cut them off?
Well,
I guess it would depend on the size of the country. Because if it's
right.
one of the little peon countries that is offering less than it's gaining,
Right.
then, I mean, we might be able to sacrifice one or two. Look at Ukraine.
Right, well, I
You look
mean,
at
yeah.
Ukraine. We've been
Right.
they're not even NATO, and we've been sacrificing them.
I mean, if the dollar crashed, right? I mean, bottomed out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, would that be enough for people to be like, you know what, you can't handle things right now, right? If everybody decided to go, I don't know, back to the gold or the ruble or whatever, you know, I mean, if it got to the point where the United States could no longer handle shit financially,
Right.
I mean, maybe that would be it, right? Where they defaulted on everything, but it would have to be, again, catastrophic.
So you had talked about, like, people going after Elon Musk because he should have deleted this and stuff.
Right.
This article talks about comes from the some former czar of, like, leaks.
Oh,
Is what they call him.
poor guy.
But he kind of assessed, like, what's gonna, like, what comes out of this. That's not the right article. Let me see if I can find the article. But basically, I'm not gonna be able to find it because it's not here. Basically, he was saying that, like, we need to ramp up the illegality of sharing and willfully containing and sharing of classified documents. So make it a crime, like, to
Oh, I
pretty
see.
much reshare, like repost.
Right.
Like, what kind of can of worms is that opening up?
Oh, I mean, all kinds.
And how much can, if you say, hey, it's a crime, which it probably already is, but if you ramp up, crack down on the criminality of willfully sharing and possession of classified docs, can you also look at, like, Elon Musk and be like, you're committing a crime by not taking this shit down?
Well, I mean, the problem is this. Social media is now viewed as media,
Mhm.
right? I mean, it is where people get their news. So wouldn't you say journalistically there is, like, they have to, you know, post that? I mean,
Like,
Throughout-
journalistic integrity?
yeah, right.
But there is no such thing as that anymore.
well,
There's
but
no such thing as
theoretically,
journalistic integrity.
theoretically, they're supposed to be. I mean, and depending on what mood Elon Musk is in, you know, he could be like, well, no, I mean, the American people have a right to see this.
But they want to crack down on that.
Well, I know
Could
that.
could they come after Elon Musk for willfully distributing or allowing the distribution of classified documents if they decide to crack down on this? Do you think
Probably.
they come up with a case? Because Discord's a little bit harder because
Right.
I think they're going to crack down on, like, the privately shared social media
Yeah.
platforms like the
Right.
Telegrams and the Signals and even Discord, where you
Yeah.
have your own private servers
Yes.
on. It's not centralized server like Twitter is.
Right.
It's you have your own, like, little chat group. It's pretty
Right.
much just like a chat room.
Yeah.
Where you're just talking about your own things and
Yes,
stuff.
I know. I think they're absolutely going to use this to crack down on this.
It's a major can of worms when
Absolutely.
Czar comes out and he's like, well, we need to crack down on the criminality of the sharing of class.
Yeah.
It's like, it's gonna come out that, hey, you reposted that, you're a fucking criminal. You should have known better. You're going to jail.
Yeah. And it's all coming down to this Patriot Act 2.0 that we had talked about since J6. This is gonna play into that.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're gonna use everything to play into that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, this is gonna be a major thing here.
Mm-hmm.
If nothing else, I could see this being a false flag, fake leak just to crack down domestically,
Yes.
like
Yes.
you were saying it earlier, just to be like, look, we got to crack down on these leaks. We got to plug up our leaks.
Yep.
So we need to regulate the internet harder.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need to stop these. Like, we need to start monitoring every repost that you have, you share. We need to hold people accountable, because it's not just the responsibility of the people that leaked it, but you should be responsible to not reshare
Exactly.
that.
Right. It's like buying stolen property and then selling it to someone else.
Yeah. So I don't know. This is going to be bad, but I don't know. Is this damaging to our reputation globally?
More than
it already is.
I to be honest, I don't think it's going to make a difference to a lot of countries are going to be like, well, we've kind of known this shit. So I don't think. Again, I don't think our allies. I think they know that how stupid our intelligence is, how irresponsible they are.
Right.
And our enemies also know how idiotic we are, so they're just taking it in stride.
I mean, I feel like they could take full advantage. Our enemies,
absolutely,
knowing how stupid we are, could use this to their advantage.
Yeah.
No problem. But I also think we could use this to our advantage to somehow escalate shit.
Absolutely.
Especially if you push some sort of Russian narrative on it, which I don't know how you play off some.
Well,
some
but it's
Russian
just
narrative.
like saying, oh, well, we think the Russians blew up the Nord Stream 2. I mean...
Oh, yeah, that just makes the most sense.
Right? Yeah.
And they could just turn it off.
Obviously, the Russians leaked this, because it makes them look good, right? But that's ignoring all the other information that's in
Yes,
this,
it's
right?
ignoring the blatant, clear facts of
Right.
the case. It is about time for break. It is time for break. I want to shift courses and move to the Saudi Arabia stuff and kind of the shift in America's world dominance in the Middle East and the region and the world, because I mean, it's not directly tied, but I think there is a tie there. It all plays into this whole the US is not the world is kind of losing faith in the US.
As they should.
Well, I think that's the plan too. It's all part of the big, elaborate, globalized plan to shift the world away from American dominance.
Yes.
And America, again, doesn't do themselves any favors by this stupid shit that makes even their allies pissed at them.
Mm-hmm.
So how hard is it to lose dominance when even your allies don't you anymore?
I think the high-ups in the United States, they want that.
Yeah.
As well. It's reverse
I do too.
imperialism. It's like, well, shit, we don't need to be on top anymore because we're a bunch of old white people.
We've had our share of fun. Let's get into break. We're gonna take 3 or 4 minutes, and when we come back, we're gonna shift topics to this this kind of the Middle East region with Saudi Arabia and the Iran kind of joining forces with China, and let's just see where the topic goes. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Don't go anywhere. Goodbye.
Have you ever thought that maybe voting, maybe all this politics constantly surrounding you is not the way to achieve freedom in your life? Hi, I'm Remso W. Martinez, and I ask myself the same question. That's why I'm on a journey to find true freedom in my lifetime. From learning about financial independence, to new ways to develop rugged individualism, to amazing guests living strange, crazy, amazing lifestyles that you've only thought might be real, but actually are. Go ahead and check out my new show, On the Run with Remso W. Martinez at the We Are Libertarians Network. You can find On the Run with Remso W. Martinez on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play. You know how the internet works. Come on down and let's discover how to achieve real freedom in your life together.
Hey everybody, I just want to take this time to give a big shout out to the very first sponsor of the Break the Bell podcast. That is Goulash Media. They can be found at goulashmedia.net. Goulash Media specializes in graphic design, web design, audio recordings, video work, wedding videos, music videos, even political campaign videos. Goulash Media caters to the little guy with the big vision. You can check them out at goulashmedia.net. That's GOULASH media.net.
You've got too much on your mind to be so conscious and not
We've returned. Well, I've returned. Did you return?
Mostly.
Mostly?
Did you get your coffee?
I got my coffee.
All right, good. Then I'm back too.
I got told the other day that I'd look like somebody who would drink a lot of coffee.
What does that mean?
I don't know. He said like your haircut, your beard, and the glasses, you just look like a coffee drink. I was like, I don't know what that means, but I do drink coffee, so I guess at least I don't look like a Budweiser drinker.
I was just gonna say that. You look like a Bud Light drinker.
God.
Fuck you.
So we just got done talking about this Pentagon leak.
Yes.
And how embarrassing I guess it should be, or could be potentially, but
potentially, unless it is again counterintelligence leak that is designed to just throw off Russia,
which is highly likely, or designed to
again
crack down on us.
The crumpled piece of paper is something out of Three's Company. I mean, that's just something that you can't imagine intelligence agencies doing today, right?
No. like where did that intelligence document go?
Uncle Billy, where's the $8,000?
And just like
I crumpled it up, George.
Oh, and you like
Yeah,
you know,
right.
like the expression, like look at the camera, like
right, right.
Oh, I want to make a sitcom. By the way, I was thinking today. I don't know if I should say this. This has nothing to do with anything except you brought up sitcoms.
Yeah.
But it would be like the worst sitcom ever, and it would get canceled immediately. I want to make like
There's a lot of bad ones
I
out
want to
there.
make a tongue-in-cheek sitcom about the U.S. government, and sex trafficking. It's just like the president talking, and there's like the main character is like, I don't know, like some advisor to the president or like a Secret Service agent or something, and his name would be like Quincy Annan. So, and the president's like, I want to call you Q, Jack, and he's like, I don't like. And like it's like a sitcom about Q, and he's like somehow exposes. There's like all these like children just running around the office. It's just like kind of tongue in cheek.
It sounds like something that would be in Archer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But like it doesn't. It's kind of like Hogan's Heroes, where it doesn't focus on the bad parts of the Nazis. It focuses. It's more like the bumbling. Oh, these dumb Nazis.
Yeah, right.
We're not gonna focus on the fact that they killed a bunch of Jews.
Right.
We're gonna focus on how bumbling and stupid they are, and how these like five dumbasses like thwarted them.
Yeah. Right.
And
they're like,
something like that. But
yeah.
it's like this guy like. Well, it's like the whole sex trafficking. Like it's just like tongue in cheek. There's just like kids there, and like they'll be like, say like, well, what? The president will be like, what happened to my last guy, Jeff? And they'd be like, well, he's no longer with us. And there'll be like a laugh track.
Yeah,
Obviously a laugh
There's
track.
gotta be,
I don't know. I was thinking about that today on a long road trip. I'm like, I want to make a tongue in cheek sitcom about human trafficking in the government, which would be horrible, but fucking amazing at the same time.
I think you need to be able to make that. I do.
If I have any like financial backers out there that want to invest into this venture, let me know. Or any like media or actors you want to participate, let me know. We'll make this thing happen. We'll make this a real thing. I don't know. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about. You brought up sitcoms, so
yes.
Switching topics. We talked about the leaky government. Let's talk about this Saudi Arabia-Iran stuff, because I don't know if you know this, but Iran has kind of been one of our arch enemies.
Yeah.
Like we've had sanctions on Iran. We're like, we'll show them those pesky kids. We'll put sanctions on them.
Yeah. They'll never have nuclear weapons.
And at the same time, Saudi Arabia has kind of been tight with U.S. for a while. At least,
well, because of
minus,
the Bushes.
Yeah, the Bush. Minus, like blowing up our World Trade Center.
Right, yeah.
Which obviously they had.
But we allowed that.
Yeah, obviously.
Right?
Sure. Like, because of oil ties, we've had this kind of ongoing relationship.
We let them kind of bend us over the table because of their oil.
We look past their like mistreatment of women.
Yes.
We've look past their human rights
Yes.
abuses.
Yes, their pedophilia.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yes, just for their oil.
Just for the oil.
And we don't need to because we have plenty of oil here, but we like to do that.
Now, again, we're kind of buddies with Saudi Arabia. We're
Yes.
not so buddies with Iran. What happens when those two countries kind of come together and say, we're playing nice?
Yeah.
And all these sanctions that you imposed on them, don't worry. We got you covered.
Right.
And on top of that, it was mediated, no less, by China, our biggest rival
Yes.
in all of this, that wants a stronghold in the region because the whole Belt Road Initiative or whatever it's
Yes,
called.
yes.
They want the region.
Yes.
The US has
They need
had
it.
the US has had dominance in the region for at least 40 years now. That they just through force, through blowing up everywhere, we've had dominance in the area. And China's like, we can do this different. We don't even have to blow up your towns.
Yeah.
We can do this different.
Have you tried crab ragoon?
Now, let's just get right into this article because this one just came to my attention last night. It says Saudi Arabia and Iran agree to reopen embassies during Beijing talks of resumption of diplomatic ties. I could see the U.S. reading this headline and they're just like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that sucks. Talk about maybe we need to start more wars or something. It says Saudi Arabia and Iran's foreign ministers met in Beijing Thursday to discuss key details in the resumption of their relations following a landmark agreement mediated by China last month. In the highest level meeting between the two sides in more than 7 years, Iran's Hossein Amir Abdullahian and Saudi Arabia's Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud signed an agreement to reopen embassies and consulates in their mutual countries, according to Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The two sides, previously staunch adversaries who'd severed diplomatic relations in 2016, also agreed to examine ways to expand their cooperation, including resumption of flights, mutual trips from official delegations and the private sector, and facilitating visas, according to their statement. So they're like hand-in-hand buddies now.
Right. Yeah.
The two sides emphasized the readiness to eliminate all the obstacles facing the expansion of cooperation between the two countries. Embassies would be reopened in Riyadh and Tehran, and consulates in Jeddah and Mashhad. Iran's Amir Abdullahian said the meeting with the Saudi counterpart was positive in a statement on Twitter. Discussions focused on the beginning of official diplomatic relations between the two nations, emphasizing stability, stable security, and development of the region. Sounds like a staunch difference between what the U.S. has been putting on there.
Right.
Instability, lack of security, and lack of like destruction of the region. The meeting was the highest level gathering of officials from Iran and Saudi Arabia in more than 7 years. It comes after the two sides agreed to reestablish diplomatic ties following talks with Beijing in March. It goes on to say that they're basically ending the civil war in, where was it at? What's the big civil war over there? That's like the greatest human. It's like the worst human freaking. I don't remember.
The Shiite and the Sunni?
Yeah. What country is that in?
Oh, it's all through the Middle East.
I know, but there's the one big one. There's the big one. It's not Serbia.
In Syria?
No, it's not Syria.
Libya.
No, I don't know. We'll probably get there. It says the resumption of relations between the countries has broadly been seen as a diplomatic victory for China in the Gulf region that has long been considered part of the U.S. domain of influence. China's top diplomat Wang Yi called the agreement a victory for dialogue and victory for peace and framed it as part of China's constructive role in facilitating the proper settlement of hotspot issues around the world. Sounds like they're stepping into some holes that the U.S. left.
But remember, before Trump went out, he was trying to negotiate all those peace treaties. And of course, we knew it was self-serving. Mm-hmm. But maybe it was to circumvent China from getting in there, right? And then Biden reversed all that shit. And China's like, all right, well there's an open door now.
Maybe Biden was, through Hunter, was just like, we'll step back on the Middle East,
Yeah.
and you guys can
take control over it.
Like,
And,
we're tired of spending money there.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
tired of it. It's your turn.
and China's like, it sucks, but yes, we will take this
We
from
can
you.
take up the
Yeah,
mantle.
we'll take this burden from you.
Here it is. Talks about Yemen. That's it. The two
Oh.
countries have also supported opposite sides of a civil war in Yemen, which has been described as by the UN as one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. Saudi Arabia has, however, been engaged in direct talks with the Iran-aligned Houthi movement, and an unofficial ceasefire appears to be holding. So
Damn.
not only is China kind of facilitating the peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran, but Saudi Arabia and Iran are kind of facilitating peace in Yemen, which
Yeah,
nobody
was a
thought would
shit
ever
show.
be possible.
Yeah.
So it seems like Saudi Arabia is the peacekeepers that the U.S. claimed to have been for the
Right.
last 40 years, which just fucked everything up.
Yeah.
China's like, we're going to go in. All we have to do is say, we won't blow your countries up.
Right.
Just get along. And they'll be
Yeah.
like, well, I guess if you're not going to blow our countries up, maybe we can
Yeah.
work out some kind of agreement here.
Right.
I mean, it's very low bar that the U.S. set to
Right.
be the dominant
But I mean,
influence.
again, the United States is always kind of pushed against Iran, and they've kissed Saudi Arabia's ass.
Uh-huh.
And maybe that's what they needed, was China to come in, who had no real interest other than the fact that they want their territory for the Belt Road.
What do you suppose? Why do you suppose? I could see why Iran would be in on this and why China would be in on this, because Iran has all these sanctions on them by the U.S. and China would be like, hey, we can front the bill,
Right.
and Saudi Arabia could front the bill of the oil. What do you think? Why do you think Saudi Arabia is in on this?
Well, maybe it's because, again, they see China as the big dog on the block now, right? Maybe
You know what it really is?
oil.
It's a big fuck you to Joe Biden.
Oh, fuck yeah, it
That's
is.
what it is. Because remember, before the midterms,
Yes.
Joe Biden's like, you will not cut back on oil production because I need gas prices to be low for the midterms.
Saudi Arabia just did that last week too.
Well, Saudi Arabia's like, screw you, that's not gonna. And Joe Biden's like, if you do this,
We're not
stand
sending
by.
you missiles.
Yeah, stand the fuck by if
Yeah.
you do this. And they're like, all right,
Yeah.
go for it. So yeah, I think a big thing is a big middle finger to the U.S. and specifically Joe Biden. It's like, we don't need you.
Right. Yeah. You can't tell us what we can produce.
The other fun part about all of this is how this basically makes U.S. sanctions worthless.
Yeah.
When other countries are like,
It's a workaround.
we'll back you up.
Yeah.
Because I got this one. This is from Middle East Eye, and it says the Saudi-Iran deal. So this was actually a few months ago. This was back at the end of March, I guess. So a few weeks ago, they were already in the works, forming some sort of deal. And then China stepped in and gave them the boost, I guess. But it says the Saudi-Iran deal shows how U.S. sanctions strategy backfired. Yes. I mean, I've always thought that. It's like, well, the U.S. ain't going to... Well, what's stopping them from especially going to China, where China wants to step in that role in the region, in the entire world anyway? It's just like, don't worry, I got your back.
Yeah.
Oh, Russia, they're cutting you off? Don't worry, I got your back. I mean...
Yeah.
It goes from being the big daddy role of everybody cowers to dad. Oh no, dad's home, to like the divorced parent scenario. It's like, no, you can't do that. Well,
I
mom
know,
said I
ask mom.
can't. Like stick your tongue
But-
out at dad. Dad's just like emasculated. It's like, okay, you can.
But a part of this also is because I believe Saudi Arabia is looking to digitize their currency and get away from the U.S. dollar as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big movement that they did a couple months ago. And so, I mean, it looks like, to me at least, Saudi Arabia is looking to do a total break from the U.S.
It says the deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran. So this is from the one that says the sanctions backfired. The deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran reached this month is the culmination of years-long attempt of rapprochement, and has shown how the U.S. strategy of sanctioning countries like Iran has backfired. In the deal signed earlier this month, the two countries agreed to reopen embassies and missions on each other's soil within months and committed to non-interference in each other's internal affairs, according to a joint statement issued with China. The deal ended close to 10 years of no diplomatic relations after Saudi Arabia cut ties with Iran in 2016. That's not close to 10 years, that's 7 years. Christian Coates Olkerson, a Middle East fellow at Rice University Baker Institute for Public Policy, said that while the timing of the deal had come as a surprise, Riyadh and Tehran have been working towards reestablishing relations for several years. Ulrichsen said the motivation of the Saudi side had come as a result of a lesson learned following former U.S. President Trump's maximum pressure campaign, in which the U.S. reinstated wide-ranging sanctions on Iran while also exiting the 2015 nuclear deal by Washington, signed by Washington, Tehran, and world powers. So apparently they kind of were in talks after Trump was like, no, we're getting out of this nuclear deal. It says, while Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman had called on the U.S. to assert more pressure on Iran in 2019, the kingdom's oil facilities were attacked by a drone strike, which was blamed on Tehran. The attack led to a 50% drop in Saudi oil production. Trump said this was an attack on Saudi Arabia, not on us. He was drawing a distinction between U.S. interest and their interest. So Trump kind of pulling back on the relations, which I don't think, obviously that didn't have everything to do with it, because then Biden comes in and it's like, no, you will do what we say. And Saudi Arabia's like, no, screw you.
But remember, with Trump, we were not as dependent on Saudi oil either. We were pumping a lot more of our own.
Says, you saw the Saudis suddenly realizing they had to adopt a set of policies that reflected their own interests. Gee, countries waking up and realizing, maybe we should think for ourselves instead of aligning ourselves with the United States. Gee, we can do this on our own. I mean, we make a lot of money for the U.S. What if we just kept that money for ourselves?
And be like, whoa. Every 4 years, we have to change how we do shit. Why do we even worry about them? This Z guy's been in power forever. Let's stick with him.
Right. For Iran, U.S. sanctions had a more direct impact on Tehran's willingness to look for other outlets and paths outside the realm of American financial system. Gee, who would have thought? Put sanctions on me, we're going to go find it from someone else. Since Washington reimposed sanctions on Iran, they have had a crippling effect on the economy, including steady inflation, devaluation of the Iranian rial, and declining global domestic production. Days after the deal was announced, Saudi Arabia's finance minister said that Riyadh could begin investing in Iran very quickly. The deal allows Iran to turn around to the West, to the U.S. and its allies, and say, look, ultimately, you're never going to be able to isolate me in the way you did prior to the nuclear deal. Dina Estefanieri, a senior advisor for Middle East and North Africa for the International Crisis Group, said during an online webinar. Says the U.S. dollar has dominated the international market for decades and has a major hold over international finance in both investing, funding, and trading. Because of the dominance, the U.S. has used policy of sanctions against its adversaries, from launching an embargo of Cuba in '62 and sanctioning Saddam Hussein's government in Iraq to imposing sanctions in Iran and Syria. The latest country to face massive U.S. sanctions is Russia, which was blacklisted by Washington following its invasion of Ukraine last year. However, experts say the policy of sanctions has proven ineffective, especially in recent years, as China has emerged as an equal rival to the U.S. in the international financial market. Saudi Arabia, for example, reportedly is considering pricing some of its oil sales to China in yuans.
Boom.
I would advocate that it means that the U.S. has to rethink its approach, particularly towards the use of economic sanctions, which I think are backfiring more and more. So what does the U.S. do? I mean, they got to stop, obviously, being the power horse.
Yeah.
Stop just throwing their big dicks around.
The problem is their dick's not so big anymore.
That is the problem. They're finding that out. Again, it's kind of telling. It's kind of like a metaphor for the emasculated father here in the United States, like the powerless emasculated father. Like the U.S. is the emasculated father.
Absolutely, it is.
And these countries are sticking their tongue out, rightfully so, sticking their tongue out at the U.S.
But again, I mean, look at how irresponsible we have been with our own economy, right? And then we're going to try to go and tell other people how they do to do shit. I mean, it just doesn't work that way.
Derek says, you're saying that China is the cool stepdad?
They are.
No, China is the naggy mom. I don't know. Probably. China could be the cool stepdad.
I think China's the cool stepdad,
Probably.
but it's all a lie.
It is.
He wants to send the kids off to private school.
Probably, yeah. I mean, it's all self-serving for China,
fuck
but
yeah.
if they do
They
it in a
just-
more diplomatic way, then and
How is it any different from what we did?
well, because it's in a more diplomatic way.
Well, yeah.
They're just not going in there and blowing shit up and saying, "We own this, bitch."
Right.
They,
Because Z knows he doesn't have a big dick.
he's Chinese.
He can't swing nothing.
Now, I mean, good on these countries for pulling back and
Yeah.
serving their own interests. Does it suck for the United States? Absolutely, it does. Does it? I mean, maybe we should rethink our whole strategy in the world and
Yeah.
realize that we shouldn't be at war with all these countries because less and less countries are supporting it. And like we talked about in the first half, you're going to find out that even our allies are going to stop supporting us.
Yeah.
And they're going to, everybody is out in it for their own.
Yeah.
Like NATO only exists for self-serving matters. It's like, well, we're going to exist in NATO because the U.S. has a lot of military power, and so they will always protect our interests.
Right.
They're not in it. No country, I don't think, is in it to help the other countries.
No,
They're only
fuck
in
no.
it for their own
Yes.
protection, their own financial gain, their own whatever. The U.S. is only in it because we have this nice barrier between us and all the other countries, known as Europe and NATO.
Right. Right.
So and that they will throw all their resources at it before the U.S. even has to. But when these countries start to realize, what happens when China comes knocking on Europe's door and they're like, hey, I can offer you a better deal.
Right.
You don't have to fight any more wars. We can all get rich, guys.
Yeah.
You guys like money. We have money.
Yeah.
We like money. You have some resource.
Well,
we can
it's
do
only
this.
a matter of time because I mean, what the WHO and the UN and the WEF are all on China's jock.
Mhm.
I mean, it's only a matter of time before the European Union is like, "Fuck you, Victoria Nuland. We didn't like the guy from Ukraine, so we're going with China."
Yeah, we kind of like China now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're already getting all our stuff from China.
Right.
Why do we hate China again?
Right.
I don't remember because they make us rich with their cheap child labor. So
Right.
I don't know why we hated China in the first
Yeah,
place.
I mean-
we kind of hate you.
Yeah,
you make
right.
everything harder for us. You make
Yes.
everything more
You got
expensive.
your unionized labor and you know
You don't let little kids work in the
yeah.
freaking
And
lithium
to be honest,
mines.
there's nothing wrong with a little lead paint.
So I feel like obviously the U.S. doesn't have the power it once had.
No.
Obviously.
No.
I think it's fair to say, our
Yeah.
standing in the world, even though we say America rules, we're
Yeah.
the number one, whatever, rah rah.
Right.
I don't feel like we have that standing in
No,
the world,
because
and
we-
it's slowly being
Right. Well,
encroached
again,
on.
there is no more moral leadership by the United States. I mean, look at all the shit we've done.
right.
And we're quickly losing our financial dominance.
Oh yeah,
So,
again, when the dollar collapses, we're fucked.
And-
It's over.
we're slowly stripping away freedoms of our own people. So, losing that standing in the world, no longer the shining city on the hill, you know. So, the United States is quickly becoming shit in the eyes of the world. But China's looking good.
And I feel like, for some reason, I feel like this has kind of been the plan in the works
fuck
for a
yeah.
while.
I think so. Otherwise, Biden wouldn't be president.
Like for at least half a decade. Yeah, exactly. Trump wouldn't have probably been president.
Yeah.
I feel like for at least half a decade, maybe a full decade, it's kind of been predicted that the American empire is going to fall. It's been all
Yeah.
over. Newsflash.
Right.
They talk about
I
it.
think they've been saying that since 9/11.
Well, right after 9/11, the U.S. was like, no, we're going to dominate the world again.
Right.
And the rest of the world was like, we don't necessarily want to do this.
That's
And
not the way we do things.
Bush was
anymore.
like, you're either for us or you're against us. And then they're like, well, we don't want to be against you, so I
Right.
guess we're for you
Yeah.
for now. For now.
But now there's an alternative. Now we can be against you.
Yeah. So this came out. These are some of the predictions in the last half decade. Back in 2017, this think tank called Big Think said, why the fall of the American empire will happen by 2030.
It's an ironic date thrown
It
out
is.
there.
It's just coincidental
Just squinky.
that it's 2030. No
Mhm.
ties to, I don't know, like the Agenda 2030
Right, or the Great Reset.
or the Great Reset or any of that
no,
stuff.
not at all.
So this one was telling, though, because, I mean, it's almost like a direct prediction of what's happened in the last 5 years. It says, living in such tense and mercurial times, it's easy to see that most Americans do not have a strong confidence in their country's future, with 60% thinking it's headed the wrong direction, according to polling data from Real Clear Politics. They are sharply divided by politics, by the role America should play in the world, and by how to utilize science and education. All such sentiment is not only warranted, but indicates the reality that the American empire is in its last years, if you believe the prediction of noted historian Alfred McCoy. McCoy sees the election of Donald Trump to presidency as a defining moment. He doesn't think Trump himself is the cause of waning American power, but rather a symptom of it. And I can see that.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, McCoy regards Trump as likely to hasten the downward trajectory. The historian writes that all negative trends that are plaguing America now are likely to get much worse, growing rapidly by 2020, and would reach a critical mass no later than 2030. It says the American century, proclaimed so triumphantly at the start of World War II, may already be tattered and fading by 25, and except for finger pointing, could be over by 2030. A lifelong observer of America's trajectory, in 1972, McCoy wrote The Politics of Heroin, a seminal book on the CIA involvement in the heroin trade during the Vietnam War. His new book, In the Shadows of American Century, The Rise and Decline in U.S. Global Power, is coming out in September, back in 2017. He currently teaches history at University of Wisconsin-Madison. He describes the coming 2020s as a demoralizing decade of rising prices, stagnant wages, and fading international competitiveness. He blames the decades of growing deficits on incessant warfare in distant lands. By 2030, the U.S. dollar will lose its status as the world's dominant reserve currency, marking the empire's loss of influence.
I'd say 2025.
But by 2025, it says it'll be
Right.
very
mostly
tattered
done.
and faded, and by 2030, it'll be all but gone.
Yeah.
So stagnant wages, rising prices.
Check.
He talked about when we had. I mean, how far can you stretch yourself thin across
Yeah.
the international warfare? Like we got wars here, we're spending like stretching ourselves so thin, and then the world turns around, looks at us like, wait, you're not the good guy at all. And it's just like, but we just spent all this money, like making the world freer.
Right.
Like it's interesting to me. It's like, what was that? There was a protest that it wasn't J6. It was the inauguration, I think, of Biden, where everybody predicted that there's going to be this big old thing, and then the only people that showed up were a handful of Trump supporters, and they're all just kind of looking at themselves like, what the fuck just happened?
Right.
And that's what I feel like. The U.S. is just like this big go-getter, like warfare attitude, and then all of a sudden they turn around, and they're like, where'd everybody go? And everybody's like looking at like, you guys are the bad guys. And I think that's the intentions of all this. But the problem is we spent the last 30 years stretching ourselves thin, so we have nothing to fall back on now because we spent it all.
Right. I mean, that's what happened to Rome.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, went on this conquest to rule the world, and like we let our own country fall to shit, and then the rest of the world turns their back on us, and it's just like, well, now we're just left with the shitty country.
Well, but I mean, remember what show was it? Was it last year? We did a show about how America was too big to fail.
Yeah.
Right.
For now.
But when that's the thing.
Right now, America is too big to fail.
Right.
But at some point, I think the rest of the world is going to be like, fuck it, we don't need you.
It's
and
already
let
happening.
It fail.
It's already happening. Right. We're quickly becoming more trouble than what we're worth.
Mm-hmm. But I think again, that's been the intention of it.
Oh, absolutely,
it's like,
we have. Yes.
It's like, you know, we got to keep propping them up, them up. It's like, for example, the big banks or something. Like, say the government, the feds or whatever, keep propping up J.P. Morgan, propping them up, throwing more money at it, and then all of a sudden they're just like, nope, and then they just turn around and just let it crash and burn even harder.
But like you said, that's been the intention. That's why there was so much outrage when Trump turned around to NATO and be like, look, guys, you got to pay your own share. And people were like, what the fuck? What do you mean we got to pay our own share, right? How can you do that to us, right? But we're expected to outspend and to overstretch ourselves so that, that's the natural progression of things. The United States is supposed to fail.
Yeah, like we say too big to fail, but at the end of the day, it's supposed to fail. Like make us feel like we're too big to fail, and then just pull the rug out from under us.
Because there's got to be that equity, right? The United States can't be big if you're going to have equity in the world. We have to be cut down to the same level as everybody else.
Lower,
or lower, right? Because
decimated,
right? Because that's our punishment, right, for being an imperialistic nation.
Even though all these other countries benefited off our imperialism, whether that's a good thing or not.
Right, absolutely.
Beto is here. Beto, how's it going? Beto says this is a controlled demolition of the American empire.
Yes.
It's going to just fall in its own footprint like the World Trade Center.
Yeah, right.
But entirely by accident, obviously. Now, another parallel article came out in November 2016, titled "America's Dominance is Over. By 2030, we'll have a handful of global powers." Guess who wrote this one? The World Economic Forum.
I was going to say WEF.
Yes. But the funny thing is, this was before the WEF came out as pro all this stuff. They're almost making it sound like, this is bad, guys. Like, we don't want the U.S. to fail. Like, because it's talking about, like, the end of like state-nation power, like nation-states kind of failing for this more like global, because it literally talks about, oh no, if America falls, it's gonna, like, all the power is gonna be in just a handful of global power, which is exactly what the World Economic Forum is. It's just a handful of global power.
Right.
Because this one came out in 2016. Again, the plan. 2030. That's been the plan. I mean, WF is the ones that pushed the 2030 agenda in the first place.
Yes.
So for them, 7-8 years ago to be like, oh no, guys, by 2030 the U.S. might be not a thing anymore. Maybe we should start getting our ducks in a row.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we're going to be the ones to pick up the pieces. It says the world's political landscape in 2030 will look considerably different to the present one. Nation states will remain the central players. There will be no single hegemonic force, but instead a handful of countries, the U.S., Russia, China, Germany, India, and Japan, chief among them, exhibiting semi-imperial tendencies. Power will be more widely distributed across non-state networks, including their regressive ones, and vast conurbations of megacities and their peripheries will exert ever greater influence. The post-war order that had held since the middle of the 20th century is coming unstuck. Expect uncertainty and instability ahead. In other words, they're telling us what their plan is.
Right.
Ahead of time. Talks about the end of history. Says, rumors of the nation-state's death were greatly exaggerated. The end of history has not arrived, and liberal democracy is not the ascendant. Misha Glenny contends that Fukuyama and others underestimated Western hubris and the greed of financial capitalism, which contributed to the 2008 to one of the most serious political and economic crises since the Great Depression. Blah, blah, blah. I want to get into some of their predictions. 4 threats to the nation state. So making it sound like a bad thing.
Right.
But knowing what we know now about the World Economic Forum, they're like, ooh, this is going to be fun. First, the redistribution of power among a handful of nation-states is profoundly disrupting the global order. Established 20th century powers such as the U.S. and EU are ceding importance and influence to faster-growing China and India, which is what they want. Second, the deconcentration of power away from nation-states is giving rise to parallel layers of governance. Indeed, nation-states themselves are busily establishing legal and physical enclaves to contract out core functions to private entities.
BlackRock.
World Economic Forum?
Yeah,
All
WEF.
the people that are part of the WEF? There are already more than 4,000 registered special economic zones ranging from free trade and export processing zones to free ports and innovation parks spread out around the world. See, they're making it as like the titles are like, this is bad, but everything they're saying is like, this isn't as bad as...
Is this when they come out and be like, you're going to own nothing, but you're going to love it?
Probably. Third, nation-states and parastates will come under pressure from decentralized networks of non-state actors and coalitions, such as the WEF. Many of them enabled by information communications technology. Large multinational companies are already heavily involved in shaping national policy. So are constellations of non-governmental organizations,
Council of Foreign Relations,
unions, faith-based groups, and others. Working constructively with rather than against these digitally empowered networks will be one of the key tests for nation states. The spread of new technologies offers up new ways of imagining deliberative democracy, but also tearing it down. Fourth, nation states are seeing power devolve into cities. The relentless pace of urbanization is partly to blame. Doesn't the World Economic Forum
want
urbanization?
Yes.
Like their whole plan is to stuff people into tiny pods into tiny cities?
Yes.
The number of large and medium-sized cities has increased tenfold since the 50s. Today, there are 29 megacities with 10 million residents or more, and there are 163 cities with more than 3 million people, at least 538 with at least 1 million inhabitants. Cities are no longer just norm takers, they are norm makers. A new generation of mayors and literally hundreds of city coalitions is emerging, busily ensuring our urban future is embedded in international relations. Not surprisingly, the geography of power is also shifting, with cities increasingly competing with each other and nation states, including over water, food, and energy. So, I mean, it's interesting how they word this out back in 2016 as, this is looking bad for the U.S., but they're like smirking as they're writing it. It's just like everything that they want. Because then they came out with...
Perfect.
Yeah, then they came out like, what, 2019, 20 with like the Great Reset ideology.
And mentioning all these things as good things. And the urbanization people will be able to live closer and they'll share dwelling and
like the 15-minute like lives, like 15-minute cities or whatever.
Yes.
Where
you can go anywhere in your little pod.
But not nowhere else.
Yeah. But that's the thing. The United States cannot exist in a post 2030 world because we can't have the big houses, we can't have the big cars, we can't eat all the red meat we want.
Right.
We can't have air conditioning. So we have to de-Americanize. We have to de-consumerize.
Right.
And become more like India and China and those fucking places.
I feel like the chess table is being set though. Like we talked about two different scenarios tonight, like two different stories. We talked about the leaks coming out of the Pentagon, which kind of pisses off our allies. We talked about one of our supposed allies pretty much turning on us and going with Iran, going with China. And again, like how many embarrassing, stupid shit does the United States have to be exposed of before all our allies is like, that looks like a better option. Yeah, I could make more money over there. Look at Saudi Arabia. They make a lot of money. They have a lot of oil. Look at China. They're doing pretty damn good. They're doing a bang-up job over there. We can look past their child labor. I mean, we've been doing it for a century, looking past the child labor.
But I feel like our leadership, right, our government people, they're being told like, okay, this is what you need to do, and don't worry, you guys will be taken care of.
It's gonna work out great.
Yeah, right.
Or people like Joe Biden, they're just like,
you get all the ice cream you want.
Yeah, it's just like, dude, you gotta I feel like some of them, like Trump or like Biden, they're like, you gotta play the dominant person, like stand up to Saudi Arabia. You gotta do this, and it's really just to turn around and embarrass him. Look at that dumbass, you know? Like some of them I think legitimately think that it's like, we're America. We're going to do this. And it's just like, but there are players in the US government that are like getting some kind of kickback from the NGOs that are going to benefit from this.
Yes.
But
Victoria
I don't think Biden at one point I think was in on it because of like Hunter and China and
Right.
all the
Yeah.
Ukraine and stuff. But I think
The Biden family,
Biden's just too dumb now.
Yeah.
He's just the
he just does what he's told, and
Yeah.
and he's told he'll be taken care of.
right. So I don't know. Are we on track to lose status by 2030? You
Oh
think?
fuck yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what happened? Like what do we do with this? Because we've talked for years. We want out of the world policing
Right.
game. We
Yeah.
don't want to be that. But the problem is somebody else will step in that role.
Right.
And it will
Yeah,
be China.
absolutely,
Absolutely
yes.
will be China.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't bode well for us, but does that mean we
Right.
should the whole like reason, like the war on communism or whatever, was
Right.
basically to maintain our dominance in the world.
Yeah.
It wasn't that we hated commies so much. It was we don't want another superpower being the
Right.
superpower.
Yeah, we wanna
want
be
to
the
be the
superpower.
superpower. I don't want that for the United States, but
No.
somebody else will be it, and it will
Right.
be tough on the United States. So then
Absolutely.
what? So
Right.
then what?
Yeah, either you become the superpower or you deal with the backlash. And again, we're at a place where I feel like America needs to be punished, is what I feel like a lot of the people, even our leadership, believes. Right? We can no longer be the dominant country. We have to back off and let someone else take it.
So do we? I mean, from the standpoint of we should not be the world police, do we just back off and let somebody else take it over? I mean, what do we do? What should
Yeah.
we do? Because I don't want to play this world politics
No,
game.
I don't either. But unfortunately, I feel like it's unavoidable.
Mhm.
I mean, you either take the helm and be the bad guy, or you back off. And America is the bad guy. I'll say that.
Now, part of me wants to say, let's back off, just focus on America. Let's just be America.
Oh, I would love that.
Now, if America loses its dominance, a lot of people say that democracy will just die.
Right.
I don't know if I believe that.
No, it
Like,
won't die.
If the U.S. Let's go back to just trading amongst ourselves. Let's just go back to just our own country. Let's get away
Right.
from the globe. Like, who fucking cares if the world's not
Right.
maybe we're not going to be as rich of a country as we once were. That's fine. I'm fine with
But-
everybody living in normal houses.
Right.
I am fine with.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would rather back off and just let's
But
just.
would we be allowed to? Right?
Probably
or,
not.
Or would the EU, the UN, the WAF, or whatever alphabet people come over and be like, look, you guys are bad for the environment.
That's why you keep
are
all the fucking guns.
Right, exactly. You're consuming too much. You're producing too much carbon. We have to come in and take control because you guys just cannot.
That's
be a
why we
part of the
maintain
world.
the fucking guns. We have more guns than every other
Right.
country
Oh,
combined.
absolutely.
Just maintain the guns. We'll be fine.
The problem is our politicians don't see the same eye to eye as we do. So they want to bow down and kowtow to the rest of the world.
Right. I feel that one way or another, this way of life is going to end
Yes.
by 2030, probably.
Absolutely, yes.
Now, the sooner you realize it, the biggest thing you can do is stop fucking relying on the government that's holding itself up to this prior status, oh, we're the big dogs on the block, when we're really not so much the big dogs, but we're relying on this government for everything.
Yeah.
And eventually that's going to come to a crashing halt, and we're going to have to rely on ourselves. So we say it all the time. Self-reliance, self-dependence. Get off the government because it's not going to be there for much longer, I don't think.
Do you feel like, because I can't imagine Americans going easy, right? I mean, if our country, decides to hand over the reins to somebody else, I mean, is there a civil war?
There will be a civil war, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so, and I hope the side that doesn't want that wins the Civil War, and then we just go back to being the United States
Yeah.
of America, or just states again. Who
Right.
cares? Or maybe we're just like the freaking Wild West or whatever.
Yeah.
We just turn into a bunch of the savage, uncontrolled nation
Right.
that we just fight regional wars and stuff, kind of like that we made
Yeah.
in the Middle East.
Right.
Maybe that's just what we
become
turn into.
warlords.
Yeah, we'll become warlords and drug traffickers and
Sure.
stuff like that, and we're just protecting our region. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I mean, we might have shorter lifespans, but it'd be more exciting. I
Yeah,
think it'd be fun.
I agree.
Yeah.
You know, red meat and fresh air.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody can tell us to stop eating the cows.
That's right.
Nobody can shove us into little freaking pods.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I
good with
don't-
that.
I don't want that. And
No.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's the hill to die on, fighting for.
I think it is.
That's the America to fight for.
Well, I think it is.
Because it doesn't matter, like you say, we need to keep asserting our dominance to keep the other. It doesn't matter. Like
no,
somebody,
you're right.
somebody's
as long
calling.
as we're plugged into the world, we're going to be forced to play by the world's
Mhm.
rules, right?
Yeah, because I mean, it takes a handful of people at the top to just shift things over. It's like, look, guys, look at China.
Yeah.
They're great. They're great. Like, I mean, there is no like chess table. It's just like a video game.
Yeah.
Like, it's all controlled now.
Right.
So, as long as we keep trying to play the game, we're not going to win the game. We need to get out of the fucking game and just focus on us. And then when the world, like the globalists or whatever, don't want to sound like Alex Jones, but when the globalists say, hey, y'all are going to play by these rules, that's at that point we just got to step up and say,
Yeah.
we're not playing by that fucking rule.
Right.
And we got to stop following these fucking clowns that are putting us in this
Yeah.
spot in the first place.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
There's no moral to the story.
There's not. It's
Besides, stop depending on the dumbasses
yeah.
at the top that are, I mean, I am not opposed to the U.S. losing their dominance, but I'm not going to bend to that
Right.
model either. So,
No.
You got any final thoughts on all this? We got to get out of here.
Well, we kind of went doom and gloom on this one.
I mean, it happens sometimes.
It does. I know. It's unavoidable. No, I agree. Yes, the United States by 2030 is going to suck. And so you're going to just have to try to figure shit out.
Which you should, I mean, it's 2023.
Yeah.
You got 7 years
7
to figure your
years.
shit
Yep.
out. That's why we've been telling you this for 3 fucking years now
Yeah.
to figure your shit out. If you wait till 2030, which most
You'll be
everyone
eating
will.
mealworms.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
If you wait till 2030, it's going to be too late.
You'll be living
figure-
in the Republic of Chicago eating mealworms.
Figure your stuff out now because, I mean, don't wait till you have to be self-reliant
Yeah.
to decide to learn how to be self-reliant because it's too freaking late by then.
Yeah.
And don't depend on your government to wish that away for you because they're not
They want
going to
it.
do it.
They want it.
They do because I don't know. It's like that show where the aliens came over and kind of
Yes.
isolate
Colony.
Colony, yeah.
Yes.
Well, you had like a few at the top that were in on the game
Yep.
that were participating so they
Yeah,
could be
And they had the cushy life.
yeah, they could live
Yeah.
their cushy lifestyle, so they were participating. That's what this is
Yeah,
going to be like. Yeah,
Absolutely.
the politicians, whether they want it or not to happen, they see it as inevitable,
Mhm.
but they want to maintain their cushy lifestyle,
Yeah.
so they will play ball with it
Yeah.
to allow it to happen, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't know. This could keep going on forever.
It could. But no, I agree with you. I think that's exactly the model they're looking for.
Yeah, it is.
So,
In China.
China.
I don't know. It's kind of disturbing seeing Saudi Arabia and Iran aligning with China because that will establish dominance in the region, which
Yeah.
I don't want you take the Middle East. I don't care
Yeah.
anymore. I don't care about it anymore.
But
Just wait for like all of a sudden Russia's like we don't like sanctions either. We want to on board with this. And
Right.
so they join forces and then
North Korea comes along.
North
and
Korea's
they're
like, you guys aren't so bad. And then South Korea's like, we're kind of stuck in the middle of this,
Yeah.
and they're spying on us. So
Yeah.
maybe we can all play nice together. I mean, you guys are right there with
Right.
China. You guys are right there with North Korea. We can make some
Right.
money together.
Turkey's like, fuck this this NATO shit. They won't let us do anything.
Yes,
So no, it's gonna be dominoes, and it's
it will.
Yeah.
So I guess just ride the waves.
ride the waves.
Just get on board with it. Don't get on board with it. Just ride the waves, though.
Yeah.
We got to get out of here. This has been an interesting one.
It has
We
been.
jumped all over the place like we promised.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think. Do you think 2030 is the end of the United States as we know it? Do you think things are going to dramatically shift by then and we'll have like the WF Great Reset ushered in by then? I don't know. What do you think? Do you think people will fight back against it, push back against it, or you think they'll just kind of just
There'll be pushback.
Stay comfortable.
That
Try to
is-
stay comfortable.
The romantic in me believes that.
I hope so too, but I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Like once things get the slightest bit uncomfortable, people start changing their minds real quick. There's a lot of people that say I'm going to fight back and not going to do it, but once things start getting uncomfortable, they're like, maybe mealworms aren't so bad. At least it's food. We got to get out of here. Make sure you check us out all over social media. Let us know what you think. The comment section is always open. We also have the Facebook forum, Breaking the Bell forum. You can jump in there, and if you don't like all the weird conversation being out in the public, your family and friends seeing the weird sides of you, that's what the Facebook forum is about. So you can anonymously chat with us. Yes. And spread all the disinformation without your family disowning you. If you don't care that your family and friends in the rest of the world disown you, I like to hang out on Twitter because my friends and family already know who I am. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at the handle at Break the Bell Pod. We tentatively will be doing the morning show this week. We didn't at all last week because Dan is a bitch. That is the... I don't even remember what it's called now. The Two Scoops Morning Show with me and my brother of the System is Down podcast. It has been a long night. It's tentatively Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 a.m. We just rant about morning stuff, and it's short form. You don't have to sit through 2 hours and 15 minutes of this. It's just short form. Get to hear us bitch for 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops. Tuesdays and Thursday morning, 7 a.m. tentatively, if we feel like it. Otherwise, be back next Monday night for another awesome show, because that's when we will be on, and we will hopefully be an awesome show.
We will be an awesome show.
We will be an awesome show.
Yes.
7 p.m. Central Standard Time every Monday night. We stream this live. So if you're listening in the future, jump into those live streams, jump into the chats. We like more participation.
Yes.
So join us. Thanks for everybody who was participating in the chats tonight. It makes things interesting. So have a great rest of your week. We will catch you next time.
Peace.
Goodbye.
The Break the Bell podcast is brought to you by you. So pat yourself on the back, because without you, we would be talking to ourselves. A special thanks to our Patreon members, Justin Zielinski, Remzo Martinez, Stephanie Parker, and T.O. Jacobson. A shout out to our sponsors, Run Your Mouth Coffee, Beyond the Run Podcast, and Goulash Media. If you'd like to help support us, visit patreon.com/breakthebell or buy our garbage at breakthebell.bigcartel.com. Get back here next week and let us continue to invade your ear holes. And as always, never stop talking.